Most people answer interview questions the wrong way. You've probably done this before. You start with all of the background, add a ton of context, and by the time you finally get the result, the interviewer already looks bored. And let's be honest, by then, you can feel yourself losing them too. That's why I'm going to show you a framework that makes your answers sound confident, concise, and leadership ready. Whether you're interviewing for your first manager role or a senior leadership position, this framework will help you communicate like a decision maker and not just a doer. In this video, you'll learn 3 things. Why the usual interview frameworks like STAR or CAR fall short when you're moving into leadership or senior roles. How the HERO framework works, and real examples of HERO in action so you can use it in your next interview. If you've prepared for interviews before, you've probably used the STAR method, which stands for situation, task, action, and result, or the CAR method, which stands for context, action, result. Now these are useful because they give your answer structure so it's easier for the listener to follow. However, if you're interviewing for more than an entry to mid-level role, you don't sound like you're in a leadership position. When you move up the corporate ladder, you're going to be expected to think and act more strategically, be driven by business metrics and outcomes, and be able to deliver those to your team. The problem with STAR and CAR is that they're chronological. You start with the background, then the setup, and then eventually you get to the results. For a senior interviewer, that's too slow. Imagine you're 2 minutes into your answer and you're still talking about context, and the interviewer is nodding politely, but thinking about their next meeting because you haven't made your point yet. I've seen amazing candidates lose offers because their best achievements were buried in a 5-minute technical explanation. They weren't showcasing their leadership, they were just narrating a timeline. STAR buries the impact at the end. HERO puts the impact up front. That's why when I coach my clients to use the HERO framework, it flips the script so you sound like a leader from the very first sentence. So let's talk about the HERO framework. HERO stands for H, headline. Start with the outcome, which is one sentence that's going to grab the attention of the interviewer. E is effect. This is why it mattered. What business, user, or product problem did it solve? R stands for rationale. What options did you consider? Why did you make the decision that you made? This shows judgment. O stands for operations. Finally, what you or your team actually did. So you can talk about the method, the tool, or the execution. This way, your interviewer hears the impact immediately. Then you show you understand context and trade-offs, and you prove you can execute. Let me give you an example of the same interview answer framed in those 3 different frameworks. And remember, this is an example around framing, and I don't want someone in the comments complaining about how I didn't explain the answer fully. That's not the point of this exercise. Here's a STAR answer. The situation had too many false positives in fraud detection. My task was to improve accuracy. The action I took was to rebuild the model with light GBM. The result was $6 million in savings and 20% fewer manual reviews. Now, as you can see, these are solid numbers, but notice how you don't hear them until the very end? By then, the interviewer might already be zoning out. Here's a CAR answer. The context was too many false positives. My action was to rebuild the pipeline with light GBM. The result was $6 million in savings and 20% fewer manual reviews. Now, this answer is a little quicker, but we have the same issue. The win is buried at the end. Now, here's the HERO answer. We cut fraud losses by $6 million a year and reduced manual reviews by 20%. This mattered because false positives were frustrating customers and wasting support time. We considered role-based filters, but they flagged too many legitimate users, so I built the pipeline with light GBM and rolled it out across 3 regions. See, there is a big difference. Impact first, judgment second, execution is last. Same story, but now it sounds like a leader driving outcomes, not just a technician explaining steps. Now, before we move on to the second example, if you're enjoying this video, you know what to do. When you like this video, YouTube will save it as a liked video so you can watch it later. And if you subscribe and let me know the type of videos you want me to make, then you'll get them on your feed, hopefully. Moving forward. Let's try Hero with a completely different story. Say you're in a product role and you ran an experiment to improve user retention. Here's the star version. The situation was our app was losing users after the first week. My task was to improve retention. The action I took was to design new onboarding flows and run experiments. The result was a 15% increase in week 1 retention. Again, not a bad answer, but the key result is at the very end. Now, here's the Hero version. We increased week 1 retention by 15% after redesigning onboarding. This mattered because early churn was killing lifetime value and hurting revenue. We tested feature prompts and incentives, but friction in onboarding was the biggest driver of drop-off. Fixing that gave us the best ROI. I led the redesign of the onboarding flow, ran 3 A/B tests, and rolled out the winning version to all new users. That drove the 15% lift in retention. Again, same idea. Impact first, judgment second, execution last. But this time it's in a completely different domain. And notice how I started with, we cut fraud losses by, instead of, I was tasked with. That's your power phrase. We achieved X or I delivered Y. Lead with the win. Hero works because it mirrors how senior leaders actually communicate. They don't start with methods, they start with outcomes. They connect their work to the bigger business problem and they explain their reasoning. Now, some of you might worry that this might sound arrogant. It doesn't. Executives want to know that you can identify and communicate impact. That's not bragging, it's business awareness. And here's the best part. Most Hero responses are around 60 to 90 seconds long, short enough to hold attention and strong enough to prove impact. And if the interviewer wants more detail, you can say at the end of your answer, if they want additional context around any part of your answer, you're happy to provide it. That way, you stay in control of the conversation. Now, if you're not sure if you're giving the hiring manager what they want, then check out this next video where I give out 6 secrets hiring managers won't tell you, but I will.